Hello, good evening, and welcome to the unbelievably 47th Madaxeman.com podcast. This is a continuation from about 10 weeks ago. We've had a bit of a hiatus while lockdown's been stopped, but it's coming over the horizon. In fact, for many of us, it's already here yet again in London, where we're all based. So we've got the team back together, and here we are joining in, having a chat about painting, gaming, all sorts of other rubbish, and quite a long discursive chat about Bataille Empire. So sit back, enjoy the podcast. All the familiar faces, or possibly voices, are here again, and here it is. It's coming for you now.
This means war.
Oh my God, we're back after possibly far too long or possibly far too short a break.
Hello.
They're all here. Discipline's already broken down with whatever it was, 6, 8, 10 weeks of pretending that we're all right and going out and having £5 off a McDonald's Happy Meal. And now, as we seemingly approach yet another world of lockdown, we thought it's time to resurrect or resuscitate or dig up from whatever box of slightly bashed up old bits of kit that we can find. Regurgitating the lead pile of the Madaxeman weekly podcast with the same astonishingly erudite, intellectual, good-looking, stylish bunch of Jesus, looking on the screen, who are you? Oh my God. Well, people possibly, generously speaking. So we've got the full set. So without further ado, I guess, let's just wade straight into trying to remember what we used to do in the past, which I think started off with something about what have you been painting in the last week, which now could possibly be what have you been painting in the last, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? My life moves on personally, but I can vaguely remember episode 20 of the lockdown series. So
I think it's about 9 or 10 weeks, probably.
9 or 10 weeks, amazing.
Yeah.
We've all been out, we've got sunshine, we've got amazing tans. No. And speaking of that, Simon Lee Ray Mayer, give us some of your, tell us your Australian view of how wonderful the tanning season has been this summer in London.
Yeah,
has it stopped you painting?
Yeah, God. So a few things we've been painting. Going for a very historical army. I've been painting a 10mm fantasy dwarf army for ADLG.
Right. Is that something you found down the back of a sofa, or?
Yeah. Well,
if they're 10mm dwarfs, does that make them 5mm?
No. It started off as a 6mm army, but because of COVID and there were a few bags of Doritos, they became a 10mm army. No,
you fattened them up. Was that you're saying? They ate too many Doritos.
Well, yeah, right.
So there were gnomes, but you turned them into dwarves.
No. So towards the end of lockdown part 1. Andy and I were talking about, what random things could you do? And Andy mentioned that he had in the back of his wargaming cupboard a whole bunch of Warmaster 10mm armies that he was thinking about. How could you use those in ADLG? There may have been some money exchanged.
There was a furtive meeting then.
Yeah.
Things passed beneath the table.
Elephants were involved as well.
Yep,
right.
And there may have been a visit to Pendragon and Eureka Miniatures, who have got some very nice 10mm figures. And I now have a 10mm dwarf army with.
So you've expanded a Warmaster original dwarf army by buying extra figures from 2 other manufacturers.
Yep. So I know it's heresy. I know all the GW fanboys will be unhappy. I've mixed alternative brand, but they look good, and I don't care.
When you're talking 10mm dwarves, is there a massive difference in height between the figures from the different manufacturers? Is it noticeable? Is it like 28s and 25s?
Have you just made them different clans?
Yeah.
No, what I've done is that you can see the difference. So the Warmaster ones, they're more of you buy a strip of
6 for the heavy guys. Yeah.
They fit on a 40mm wide frontage. The Pendragon ones are all single figures. So I've used the more linear ones to represent mass rank swordsmen, dwarves, all have big hammers or axes, swordsmen, two-handed choppers, and
Someone say chocolate.
No, choppers.
Yes, please, chocolate.
I thought someone said chocolate.
No, we're talking about dwarves, love.
Definitely.
Chocolate dwarves?
No,
I can see them on the
no.
Christmas tree.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Chocolate giants. Dwarves are too small.
Especially if they're made out of chocolate. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but who wants a chocolate dwarf? I can have a chocolate giant.
Who
Well,
wants
you've got to
chocolate?
have something for Halloween.
You have to keep
I've
them
got my
in
own Halloween monster here.
It all depends what scale. What
That's
scale
true.
they are. You can have a 1 to 12 scale dwarf, which is larger than a 1 to 72nd scale giant. So
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think it needs to be said also that Simon's dwarf army is basically a sort of a what you'd get if you came to a nuclear contaminated zoo being herded by a group of dwarves.
So
In
Well,
terms of
I'm not
the
even sure
creatures
what
he's got
that
in his
means.
army.
Bit of
Andy,
a menagerie.
can you put your wife back on? Because I think she makes a lot more sense than you. I don't even know what that means. Right. So
That
Simon.
goes without saying.
Well, of course it does. Of course it does. Right.
Did he ever tell you about the first war game he ever played? It
I'm
was
sure-
a naval battle. And he spent ages
Naval?
explaining to me how it worked.
Wow,
And then I
romance
beat
is.
him. First
Oh,
game.
right.
Yes,
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Hey.
Romance isn't dead, is it? It's
Yeah, then she retired
So,
undefeated.
Andy,
gonna-
that was a hell of a first date.
I've got a feeling
No,
we're going
first
to
day
need
she
a
dropped
new
the
theme tune
suitcase
for
on my
this.
foot at an airport. That's a different story.
That's
Yeah.
we are going to need a new theme tune for this section, aren't we? But Simon,
Going back to painting figures, because I was going to say, these 10mm dwarves, are they sort of like quite short and podgy with beards?
yeah, so they're
I've got some Mike's model Vikings that would probably fit in really well if you want to buy this.
probably true.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Have
Yeah,
you
they
genuinely
look,
got some
they look
Mike's
kind of
models Vikings?
Viking-ish, yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
genuinely got some Mike's models Vikings?
No, I made up.
No, that's good. Okay, that's fantastic.
Can you actually tell the difference at 10mm between the different manufacturers? Because 10mm is tiny.
You can do, yeah. So you can definitely see the difference between the Eureka miniatures, the Pendragon, and the GW ones. The Pendragon have a lot more detail to them. Yeah, they're quite detailed. The GW ones are very nice as well, but being more on a strip, you can't do as much with them. But they all look quite good. And when you look at them on the table, like Tim, what you've done with your 10mm Napoleonic army, and you do them on max, you look at it and go, that's actually not half bad. So
That's all right. 2-3 ranks.
Have
for
you
base.
had to increase your glasses prescription after painting them? Because it sounds like they'd just do my eyes in just trying to.
I have reading glasses, then a microscope, then sometimes the electron microscope, just to get that real detail.
Or you just put a wash on them and hope it looks all right.
There has been some washes.
There has been some washes as well.
Because, yeah, when you're playing at scale, you don't really notice it, so it all looks good. And it's got
Is that-
gyrocopters, so that's even better. 'Cause
Okay, so has that been your main project of the last? Are we saying 10 weeks?
yeah, I think 10 weeks. I think that's been the biggest one because I have been very scarily actually gone to the Wargaming Club a few times to play a few games,
Okay,
knowing that we're going to go into lockdown. So as soon as we felt safe, it's quick walk to the club, have a few
Yep.
games, get ready for phase 2.
get ready for phase 2. All right. So, Mr. Saunders, your phase 2 then. What's your last 10 weeks? I think you're not still trying to finish off basing those Egyptians, are you? That was most of the previous 20 weeks, I thought. But
The Egyptians have been painted, finished, and played. Like the chariots were the last thing to get done. They got rushed through not so long ago. They've actually been out and been beaten soundly twice.
yeah, we did talk to you about that at the time. But
Yeah, I mean, Egyptians is not one of the great armies. I think it's one you always want, but they're fun. I mean, I think there's a challenge in how to use them, and I think that'd be quite fun to get the hang of, if ever. I think when heavy chariots are around, they're a bit of a nightmare.
You mean virtually every army in that period?
If you have a date range and no heavy chariots, it can work.
Well,
That's for about 20 years.
No. Instead of doing Iron Age with the later Assyrians and stuff, there was a viable period of Bronze Age where everyone's got like chariots and doing that. It's kind of a different period though, because the heavy would swamp the earlier ones.
Pre-1200, before 1200 BC, then you got few heavy chariots, I'd say.
Okay, so what else has made it onto the painting queue whilst we've been allowed out?
We started playing a lot of Bataille Empire, which I'm sure we'll come on to in a bit. So I painted some French dragoons.
Sorry, David, can you just say that again so we can all enjoy your beautiful French accent?
Bataille Empire.
Ah, good, yeah.
I'm almost there. I can smell the sewage in the Seine as we speak, almost. Yeah, floating on past. Well, I think maybe there's a whole Bataille Empire episode that we could plan in.
And I've been facing French skirmishes.
Ooh.
The Bataille Empire.
Yeah. Incroyable.
And tidying up some things. Just finished in the last few days with another 4 bases of Goth heavy cavalry.
So the Gothic army is that adding on to your Frankish troops then, or is that a different?
Well, they're saying that I've got. I think, as I said, as I'm repeating from the last summer, I might end up with 2 Frankish armies by accident. So I'm going to try and complete that. And just literally on the table at the moment is another load of Scythian heavy cavalry. Wow,
that was an army you started at the beginning of the first lockdown.
It was, yes, exactly. So I basically the Warren Empire got Scythian heavy cavalry with barded horses and without barded horses, and I seem to buy both. So I'm going to probably paint these.
Now, there's a common wargamer story. They had 2 options, so I bought all of them.
Yes.
I think that's a secret. So is there any painting tips and tricks that you've picked up in the last few weeks? Any things that you've gone, because over the last series or that last run of 20, you were Mr. Brush Soap and a couple of other things that we all kind of rushed off and went, are we really going to spend money on that, honestly? But then pretend that we did. Or anything else that you've discovered about how things are painted?
I'd say that the what's it called? The wet painting thing is a bit of a disaster.
The wet palette. You moved.
The wet palette. I bought that and it's not being used.
That was the army painter one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I bought that.
Yeah.
It's sitting in here, but I think if you're painting 25mm figures and lots of them, it'd be useful. But for painting 15mm, it's not so hot, not so useful.
No, I must admit, I have got one of those myself, and I did do that. Can't remember if we talked about it last time. Looked at various ones, and then ended up buying that one. And it is a really nice size. I think it's smaller than it says on Amazon, which is quite good. And I have used it quite a lot for the 25mm, just to keep paint from drying out, particularly in the summer when it did get quite hot. And then now it's kind of gone a bit darker when you're painting underneath quite strong lights, and that dries stuff out as well. So just for keeping the paint going a lot has been quite good. And I've also been using it to mix, because I think that's one of the things someone said, to mix different colours to try and get a match around the edge of little big man shields, so that I can blend the transfer into the actual edge of the shield, because otherwise they end up with that kind of white rim that's just a bit, and it's difficult. So blending paints, I've found it works quite well for that.
This means war.
So Peter, what have you been doing? Have you been out and about? Have you put the painting table to bed for the last 10 weeks, or has there been stuff?
I did very little painting. Had lots of real world stuff between, work courses and things like that. So I did a bit of painting. I used the wet palette, actually sat outside in the garden doing a bit of painting and relaxing back, just doing random figures for no apparent reason apart from I damn well felt like it. So it's just been pretty relaxing. So as with Dave, we've both played a couple of games of BE. And so I'm getting back into what am I going to build up next. I've done the Austrians. I think I'll go on to the Bavarians. So I'm just sort of like pricing up. sorting out some of the figures for that. So that's, I think, will be my next lockdown project. I've got various other things to finish off.
Are the Bavarians as easy to paint as the Austrians?
Oh, you get light blue instead of white.
Oh, right. They're all light blue. Okay.
And you get those really stupid hats as well. The wrap helms.
And a checkerboard flag that reminds me of
flags
beer.
make you cross-eyed painting them. I'd buy painted flags. It drives myself mad painting them.
Not painting them.
No.
I'm getting a decal.
Absolutely.
But it cries out to be an army that you've got to have a good beer with as you play it. So I was like, it just called out to me. Plus, I can reuse the Austrians because the Bavarians sort of change sides twice. So I can use part of the French that I've got and part of the Austrians I've got. And I got some more French as well. So I got some more French cavalry and stuff. So, didn't paint a lot. Bought some more, planned out some more, worked out games I want to play. So,
okay, well, that's almost like a human being's answer, really, not a painting machine. So, Andy, what have you been chewing through over the last 10 weeks?
Well, painting's been a bit spotty and sporadic. What I did manage to paint was the Badger Knights. What I did was this is for my feudal English army. So I've painted 5 units of knights. Each one's in a kind of livery colour of a different football club, and they've got a badger on their shields.
So all of them have a badger on the shields, but they're all different colours.
Yeah.
There's the blue badgers, the red badgers.
Well, there's the QPR badgers. We've got the Brentford badgers. We've got the Fulham badgers. Crystal Palace badgers and the Watford badgers. That's not their names, just the colours, but these are the Fulham ones.
So it's actually a whole West London thing then.
Kind of. I just thought I wanted the theme for ideas for colours for knights and different styles and things. So I just thought, well, let's go football club things. Which I thought
the Fulham Knights, do they just sort of like when they get attacked, do they just stand aside and let the opposition get to the baggage?
Yeah, they just collapse.
Well, they just can't defend.
I think they're not very good defensively. Although I guess whilst Dave is on the on one of the squares.
I mean, they would only be elite till May, and after that they'd reduce to ordinary.
Yeah, but one quick pop quiz for you, Adam. As well as Fulham's dreadful defensive record from the first 5 games of the Premiership season, can you name me 2 other teams in the Premier League who've conceded the same number of goals?
Yeah. Liverpool and United.
And Man United, absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
so
they were too busy working out a dodgy bid for the Premier League, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly, they were busy too. But I'm not sure what Fulham's excuse was, other than just not being ready and not being quite up for it. So it's been Badger Knights over the summer then.
Badger Knights, yeah. Now it's the Spearmen to go with them. I've got about 4 or 5 units of Spearmen. They're actually Conquest Normans, but I'm using them as sort of sort of feudal English spearmen.
Are you going to stick with the football? Are you going to stick with the football team theme, or are you going to stick with the furry animals theme? Is there going to be Stoat Knight, Stoat Infantry, or something?
No, they're just going to be each unit of knights got a different colour kind of surcoat, and I'll just tart up the shields and things like that.
Right, who's that?
Oh, it's the ice cream van.
It's the ice cream. Right. You're not painting an ice cream van as well, or should we not give you?
No, that be a supply wagon.
Right, that'll be the supply wagon. Okay, then. Tamsin, I imagine.
Oh, I did a Viking ship as well.
Oh, there's a Viking. Oh, just a ship, just a little ship.
There's a scratch-built one out of bits of MDF as an army base for the Vikings.
Okay, all right. So Tamsin, you've still got your 2000 AD background going on there.
Yes, I have.
So have you built all of Mega City 1 now, or have you moved on to something else?
Actually, haven't painted anything more for Mega City 1. I did focus a bit on terrain. That's the share screen. So started off.
Oh, those are nice.
Making I needed to make up some rock formations to use with Strontium Dog games or cowboy games, Wild West, and also did some hills up for Infamy.
Those hills look like people could be able to stand on the slopes.
I have tried it with bases, and they will stay on the slopes just about.
Those look like the kind of stuff that you'd actually buy from professional people. Yeah, they're really good.
They look lovely.
Then I went on to do some marsh pieces and ended up. I wasn't happy with the first set. Mostly because the way I tried to do the water just didn't really work.
Yeah.
So I did a second set and carried on with the first set, and first set ended up. Yeah.
Those hills are lovely.
Becoming quite usable.
So how did you make up the hills then? Because they look quite substantial.
Either hills.
Yeah.
Either rock formations or the hills.
No, the hills. The
hills. The green hills.
The green hills. That was just I styrofoam onto MDF bases. I shaped a hot wire tool, little bit of sanding, and paint floor gravel.
So just a little bit of hot wiring with styrofoam. Then that's
You dropped that in, didn't you?
Just as you do, just in passing.
Yeah. The rest of us are like going, I can manage super glue.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Just.
Yeah.
Well, you say that, but I ended up sticking my fingers together. So.
So then once I had all those bits of terrain done, decided to make a start on the actual horses for Infamy. I was going to be doing it in 15 solo games. Also, I wanted to be able to use the figures for ADLG. I haven't quite got enough for an ADLG army, but so it started with the Germans. That's everything that's been painted so far. So you got some of the bases are just for ADLG, some are just for Infamy.
So these are they forged in Battle People? No, they're
for Lancashire Games.
Lancashire Games ones. Okay then.
Yeah. And at the moment, I'm almost finished painting the early Imperial Romans. I've got the Legionary and Auxiliary Infantry painted, got cavalry painted, the auxiliary painted. I'm just working on the commanders at the moment.
So are you going to do decals on the shields and that? And
no, I've actually hand-painted designs on.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they'll look fine on mass, not necessarily so good up close.
Yeah, no, but that's good. I think the lost art of actually painting shields is actually the secret, isn't it? But it's not as difficult. I think we've all got into a bit of a fix of going, it's really tricky. There's, it's got to be stickers. But it's not terminal.
I find it harder to do the stickers, but that's just my thick fingers.
Yeah. No, I must admit, I've been doing a lot of stickery sort of stuff as well with these far too many plastic 28mm Arabs. That's been my kind of slow burn project over the last 10 weeks. And that's really been a lot of assembling different bits and pieces of far too many. Well, I'm saying far too many, but I think it must have been about 5 or 6 boxes of cavalry, and then a box of infantry, and then loads of different metal bits and pieces as well. But I think the 5 or 6 boxes of cavalry have kit bashed into something like sort of 60, or I suppose actually it must be just over 60 cavalry. So it's 5 boxes and some metals.
So you can basically do 2 full Arab armies on horseback now.
Pretty much. But it's just working out if you're having one generic Arab army, you end up saying, well, I need some elite heavy cavalry bow, and I need some normal heavy cavalry bow that look different. Then you need a couple of medium cavalry bow, because there's maybe one of those. Then you always need lancers, and some are heavy and some are medium, and then suddenly, before you notice, you've got like 20 bases of cavalry.
You mean as opposed to the normal one where you rock up and say, well, this one's heavy, this one's medium, because these have got the red shields and they've got the blue ones.
Basically, yeah. Well, I think it all stemmed from me accidentally buying two boxes of fully armored cavalry, and I thought I'd only bought one.
They are very nice models, though.
No, they're really, really nice. The horses are very good, and kit bashing all the Arab stuff to try and make sure that they look properly Arabic and don't look like Gothic heavy cavalry.
You were sticking skirts on some of them, weren't you?
Yeah, I on some of the infantry, I used some Viking infantry, and I used some of the Fireforge Russians as well, and kind of built up using wood filler. I built sort of skirts around them so they had more long flowing robes under the armor, and they're going to be my 2 bases of De Lami to go into a Death Star either side of one of the elephants that I've got, and then I even used some of the Peri Sudanese infantry, which are great. I think you get all 6 of them on it. No,
yeah,
you might even get 12 on a sprue, to be honest.
Yeah, I use those. for a 28mm army. They're lovely.
Yeah, they're really nice little figures, and there's a lot of variety, although there's an awful lot of them with that very weird and distinctive hairstyle. So it was quite tricky getting enough heads that weren't the mad hairstyle, which looked particularly Sudanese. So a lot of mine are now bald, because that was the other alternative to the I can't believe that you're not Sudanese mad hairstyle. So I've got 2 bases of those, 2 bases of De Lama, and I'm trying to crack through all of the cavalry. Well, crack through. I've been grinding through the cavalry. I've got about, what must it be? Let's have a look.
Is this when you realise after you play your first game with them that you actually want to prefer to do them with a load of heavy spear instead?
Well, I've already got the heavy spear as well, so I've got 6 bases of heavy spear. But I've played quite a lot of the Arab armies in time, so it was just kind of a thing that I wanted to kind of kit bash it and do it in 28. And for a while in the middle of it, I was really thinking, this just isn't going to work. This is just going to look like a load of blokes on oddly coloured horses with the wrong heads. And it just, once they started being painted and based together, it really, really started to come together. But I've been pinging, or drip feeding odd figures onto some forums and onto Facebook and onto Twitter, just to kind of go, to give you that satisfaction of thinking, I've actually finished 1 or 2 of these, and then I photographed them and they do look all right. And then they look sort of better once they're based up, to just get a bit of feedback from it. So, but it's still a huge number of figures. Even the cavalry are maybe 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way to being ready. I've got all the horses based, but I'm still working through the riders. And then the infantry are still pretty much just undercoated. And I've got a few more to undercoat, but I've been doing it with contrast paints, because I bought about a dozen contrast paints to give it a go to, and some of them are absolutely fantastic. It's just a shame they've got such kind of wanky names that you sort of feel a bit odd about going. I've now got my Iandan yellow and my Akahelian green and Blood Angels red. And
that's not too bad, mate. When you said wanky names, I thought you were going to say masturbation yellow and.
Well, I don't want to tell you what the purple is called, and that's a slightly different one. And then Talassar blue, from the planet whatever. What was this one? Yeah, green. The very good green is called Warp Lightning, which I think is one of the beers that me and Dave get from Beer 52. That's about 8.7% by alcohol, and it's got a lot of cloudy stuff at the bottom of it. So,
didn't you have a Warp Lightning cocktail in one of those German bars at a competition somewhere?
That might have been Burton, actually. That was that was the chaser for the Burton Slapper, wasn't it? Or unless that's the
you're thinking Burton Slapper and the Cheeky Vimto.
And the Cheeky Vimto, yes, indeed, the Cheeky Vimto. But yeah. Another story, another day.
Did you buy these in the shop, Tim? Did you actually have to go into an actual?
I think I bought them. I think I got them through mail order. I could have gone to the shop because
with the dodgy names of things.
Because I think Dark Sphere is now open again some days of the week, but I could go in there and get them. And then Skeleton Horde has something else. Black Templar.
The problem is with those contrast paints is that they work too bloody well. It's just too easy, especially with the Arab ones. I did a Arab 15mm army with them, and it just goes on nicely. You do the white undercoat and then just paint over the contrast. It just pops quite easily. Yeah,
it is sort of super quick. It makes you, struggle with whether you're going to end up doing the detail, but at least a lot of. I think for Arabs,
I didn't worry about it. I wasn't.
No, not at all. But there's not a lot of detail to do. I think if they were more kind of gnarly figures with more different bits, it might be harder to do. But the Arabs are all wearing, certainly the Gripping Beast ones, are all just wearing a long robe. So it's got to be all in the shading. It's just a white base.
So with the contrast paints, are they just an over-glorified Games Workshop wash?
I think the answer is yes and no.
They've got a higher pigment level than that, so it's quite a high pigment level, but with high viscosity. So it flows across quite nicely, but it's got more pigment capture than you would have with just a normal wash. Yeah,
it's sort of, some of it is almost a stain, but it's different to a watery paint. There's obviously some science gone into it, because they do flow differently, but you are putting it on sort of like a wash. So painting quite small details is sort of difficult. And I've used it. I split the army. Some of it I undercoated in the army painter skeleton bone, which is kind of a bleach bone equivalent, sort of a slightly yellowy white, and then some I undercoated in Holford's matte undercoat white, and the same whatever it is, contrast color comes up quite differently on those two different base coats. So with what I've got, whatever this is here, 8, 10, I've got more than a dozen of these contrast paints. So then you get 24 different colors out of it. And I was, having done it, I was kind of thinking it would have been interesting to do something like a real pale gray undercoat as well, because that would have given it a different texture. And I've got some of that because it's like another car undercoat from Holford's. So I could give it a go. So you get more variety, and some of the colors are stronger. The reds and some of the blues are really strong, but then there's a really nice color with a really wanky name, ethermatic blue,
which is more of a green, isn't it?
It's a sort of turquoisey. It's almost a turquoisey pale one that looks fantastic on a white undercoat and just looks kind of horrible, dirty on a slightly off-white undercoat. So it's a bit of a learning experience, but to hit one whole army with that wants to have a lot of silks and has the right sort of figures for it, with that as a piece of technique, is quite interesting. But I can see myself using it sometimes, but not as everything. For other armies, I think 28mm Arabs feels to me a real sweet spot in, I'm sure Space Marines are good for it as well, and monsters with 8 arms or something. But I think in historicals, I think you do need quite a lot of cloth and need it to be the sort of strong colours.
If I was doing a Renaissance army, I'd definitely use it.
Yeah, I think I've kind of.
I'm curious as to what Arab armies got elephants. Is that just Ghaznavids?
There's Ghaznavid, there's Khurasanian, there's a couple of other
few.
ones. There's a couple of
you
other
can
ones
take
as well.
allies with a few.
Yeah.
Not that I've researched it and want to take things with elephants.
Arab Indian.
Were they using contrast paints for Renaissance armies? How would it work if you were doing that slash clothing? So you were doing different colours quite close to each other.
I did that with with a load of lanchenettes that I'd had kicking around undercoated for years, and I couldn't face actually painting them.
As you do.
I just hit them with the contrast paints, and with the really deeply carved fluffy sleeves and stuff like that, where there's really deep grooves in the figure, I didn't bother doing the top coat, and it actually looked, it was obviously yellow, but the inside of the fold was so much darker than the top, that it had a good effect without actually having the two color, the white inside and the red out, or whatever that, or the yellow and the black. It worked out okay. So you could do it, and you looked at it and went, that's the sort of two-tone effect you want, without necessarily going, but it's not red and white, and it's not black and whatever. And I think that got me past painting 90-odd Swiss Lanchenet pikemen, who I was never actually going to paint because I'm barely going to play with them. I think I played with them once maybe, but it just got me over that kind of hurdle for them. And I think possibly the same with the Arabs. It's just a very quick way to get shading, but I think it does look like a good sort of silky sort of colour. So they're kind of underway, and I think I've got one elephant done. The other elephant I need to do, and they could get done quite quickly, even though it's been quite slowly to do it, because when you get into a bit of a roll, you do get quite a lot done in quite a short period of time. So
yeah, it makes me tempted to invest maybe a one for next year in sort of like a Southeast Asian army, one of the Thai, Khmer, that sort of thing, because they'd flow nicely. Plus, I get more elephants. But That's for when I do my order to shipped off from the US, from Kursani, when they've got all their stuff, because they've got some nice models with that. I'll do that when I'm getting the other army as well.
Yeah, well, I think the Talassar blue, the Blood Angels red, they're both really strong colours. I think the Griff Hound orange, I'm even saying this out loud, is another good one that you can use with normal paints. A lot of the others are much a step sort of closer to the wash, I think. Not in a sort of South Lincolnshire sort of way, it's a step closer to a wash. That so it's horses for courses, but I think it's an extra string to the painting bow that can be used if you've got enough surface and it kind of warrants that sort of thing. So kind of pleased with them.
This means war.
So Adam, round to you and your bandit face mask. Have you been robbing banks? You've been doing painting cowboys, maybe, or
No, it's more Dick Turpin than cowboys. It's
right, okay then.
It's the only way that I never forget to take my mask out, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
Well, Adam and the Ants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and it's cool. And you get to look like a highwayman, so it's all
Yeah,
very
quite
good.
dandy. Yes, quite dandy. So what's been happening in your painting desk?
In my painting desk, I've been doing mainly, only Romans. I remember talking about I had some 25mm Romans from Victrix, and they're more than half done now, because I haven't been painting a huge amount of time because it's been summer. But I've been doing sort of like a quick wash, and then with the army painter slop. And I've got all the legionaries done, and I've got the auxilia done, and I've done the cavalry and generals' horses, and I'm just doing the riders now. So I'm a lot more than halfway done with that army, and that's something that I'm quite pleased with, because now I can sort of like put all the legionaries and the auxilia out in a big long line, and I go, even though I've used really simple block it out wash techniques, once they're all based up, they look convincing. They're not going to win any awards, but they look like a proper toy soldier army, which is good. But coming back to shield transfers, my thinking on them has grown a little bit, because with this army I am using Little Big Man, and I think you're right. You don't have to default to Little Big Man, but when you're doing something like early Imperial Romans with those shields that are just really, really busy, I would have no chance of painting them anyhow. So I've used them, and they are really good, especially with those very good Romany shields. They are very good at making it look. They just make it pop, you know what I mean? When they're all out, I've got some in the red, legionaries, I've got a couple of bases.
Especially en masse. Once you've got them set up as a unit, it looks good, doesn't it?
It looks really good. But the other thing that I liked about it was the amount of time it takes. It's almost no time at all. It's like once you've cut them out, I can pop them on in a few seconds, and it's just like they're expensive, but it saves a lot of time. But the next army I'll be doing, which I've already bought, is Dacians, because I've now decided that when I do armies, I'm going to do match pairs, so enemies that can fight each other. So I'm doing Is it Dacians or Dacians?
Dacians, I think.
Dacians.
But isn't the car a Dacia on the advert? The one that where the announcers is being done by Finchy from The Office. It's the Dacia. So definitely the car company pronounced itself Dacia, and that's from Romania. So
and nobody ever says potato. No. But when I do them, I'm going to do them shields myself, and I'm just going to do sort of like half shields and quarter shields and solid colours, and some of them are going to get a little bit of a geometric pattern or something. But yeah, I'm not going to use Little Big Man for them, because there's going to be so many other buggers to be paid.
Are you doing Victrix for those as well? Or?
Yeah, I've bought them, and they are, in fact, they're lovely figures.
Yeah.
They are really, really nice. So I've got one big bag. I'm going to need two, I think. But
sorry, Adam, are you doing? Was it 25? These are 25mm, yeah.
Yeah. Or 20.
there may have been a slight incident at the start of wave
true.
1 where I bought some 25mm warband decals and short transfers.
That's true. That might even before you joined, Adam. That might have been the first podcast before you joined, where Simon accidentally bought Veni Vidi Vici transfers for
As you do.
for ancient
I
Brits.
thought I bought the 15mm one, and they arrived and went, they're a bit big. So might grab your details. I'll post them down to you, because I'd rather see them used rather than sit in the cupboard for the next 2 years.
Thank you very much, but you've just blown out of the water my whole. Oh yeah, it's going to be
No.
better.
They're single color water slide.
Yeah.
So and they're only the pattern. So you can do the the back color whatever you want. So it's just
And do a pattern on top.
So it's actually just the red. It's the S or the. It's
Oh
not,
really?
Yeah. No, they
That's
enhance
fantastic.
self painting. Yeah. They
Yeah, that
definitely
sounds
enhance
perfect.
self painting.
Okay, synchronicity. The universe is a wonderful, complex, and strange place, and sometimes miracles can happen.
That is exactly where we started, wasn't it? And probably on that note, time for the next feature.
This means war. This means war.
Okay, so having talked about what we painted in the last 10 weeks, there's kind of just a very swiftish overview of gaming or games that may have actually happened. So, Peter, what about you? Did you manage to get to the club at all, or get in any online games, or beat up your own children, or were they all out in the sunshine all summer?
Well,
being feral?
when they actually came in from the sunshine running around as the children do, I did manage to play Cost Center number 2, a couple of games of ADLG, which was a lot of fun. Won one, lost one. So pretty even score there. He let me win the second one. That's what it felt like anyway. He took pity on his dad. Managed to get down to the club. Actually, play a couple of games of Bataille Empire, but I think there's a few of us who've spoken about that one, haven't we?
Yeah, no, I think there's a few of us have been kind of working up to it, and you've been having groups of 3 or 4 people trying to bash through the rules and get the order system things working and stuff like that. Are you starting to get to grips with it, do you think? You're
yes,
getting there.
Getting there. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. There's a lot to it, but then it's logical. It's like reading the book itself. It was making it hard to stick in my poor little adult brain. But as soon as you get the, literally the miniatures on the table, and you start moving stuff around. And Simon and Howard, the other Simon, Brown and Howard were helping Dave and I get our heads around it. And then I had played a game with Dave, which was certainly helped by several glasses of red wine and a few beers, wasn't it, Dave? But we actually had a lot of fun with it, working out what actually works and what doesn't. So, the basic way of hussars charging into something when they shouldn't. But it's a lot of fun. It's made me want to actually buy some more armies and do some more stuff. And it's got a degree of complexity with the order groups and everything else.
So, Dave, you've been involved in that, and me and you have played actually that test scenario Bataille Empire just to try and get a bit of a grip of the rules and things as well. So, where's your head at with it?
I think since all of ADLG Ancients is on hold until God knows when, I think I'm going to be playing as much Bataille Empire as I can, just to sort of like check it out. I think the command and control rules are really good fun. I think with all Hervé's rules, there's a mishmash of lots of other sets of rules. But yeah, I mean, to compensate for the lack of armies, he's made the command and control quite detailed, and I think that's really good fun. It's there's a lot of laughs in that. And there's a lot to learn, but that makes it much more fun. I mean, I think all shout to Simon Brown and Howard for getting to grips with the rules and being there to stand over and say, "How do we do this?"
For several weeks for us, which was very nice.
So yeah. I'm playing another 2, maybe 3 games this Thursday.
Right. Well, maybe in a week or so's time we should have a bit of a in-depth discussion, flick through, talk about Bataille Empire then. And make that kind of a central part of one of these. That might be an idea if few people start getting into it. And Andy, Simon, have you been stepping into it a little at all, or is that you've been...
I played a few solo games with it, so it's difficult to really wrap your head around when you do that. But my impression was that the problems it posed were sort of logical for what you'd expect for a Napoleonic army based on what you've read about. And so when I tried playing it with the order system, a division marched on, and you think, oh, right, how do I get these guys all into the right sort of position? Which is the kind of thing that you would think about as a Napoleonic commander. And it wasn't just line them all up and trundle them round. I mean, traffic management is going to be an issue with it, which is only fair enough for that. And also the idea that you do need a second line behind which people can run away and then stop running. So initial impressions are favourable, but as I say, I want to play it a bit more. I think cavalry may be a little bit overpowered from what I've seen initially, but as I say, I haven't played enough to make a definitive judgment on it.
Okay. And Simon, have you managed to get your is it your Swedes or your Austrians into any sort of on-table action yet, or is that still something that you're working towards?
I'm working on. I've read the rules a couple of times, and I haven't got my head how it flows yet. So, but listening to a lot of people talking, one thing I've said is you sort of need one or two experts to they get it, and then you sort of need a few people to help walk you through the rules. Then all of a sudden, some of the text makes a lot more sense. So I'm waiting to, hopefully maybe next year actually get it on table and give it a few more games from there.
Yeah, well, certainly the couple of games I've played of it, I suppose this might sound daft, but then again, it's not ancients with different hats. You do need to do quite different things in it. And
I think it's a learning curve. I don't think a novice is going to turn up, roll some spectacular dice and beat an experienced player in it.
Yeah, I think that was kind of things. But I suppose I was, sticking cavalry on the wings and infantry in the centre, and it's just different to that. And it just, the march moves and all sorts of things. So I was really quite pleased after a couple of games to go, this looks like it's got some of the same anchor or backbone of mechanics, but not that many. But actually it just gives a very, very different experience, and all the other different mechanics were quite interesting. So, I think over the next couple of weeks, probably something to dig into and then exhume a little bit more and unpack. So
I had a game last night, first time ever.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. The first thing that struck me, and this is probably more an artifice of not this set of rules, but me and my opponent, neither of us had played before, and we had read them. But when it's a set of rules that neither person's played, it's actually quite hard work to learn them as you go along, and that's just like one of the things. But it's like, do you remember, Tim, that first time we played Malifaux?
Oh God,
5 hours,
because it's 6 hours later. Yeah, what
happens now? And it was fun. There's some things about Bataille Empire that I'm not sure whether this set of rules I'm going to like or not, because there's a lot of detail and crunchiness to it that once I've understand how the rules work might be okay, but it's just things like I like Napoleonic rules like Blucher, where basically units a brigade and you don't change formation, it's just a brigade and it sort of like stomps around as a brigade. Whereas this, it's like there's two different types of square. You can either form a square or a battalion mass square, and the column mass square
certain types of units.
Yeah, so 2 sides, and it's +6 against cavalry, and the full square is +7 against cavalry, and it's quite detailed. It's quite crunchy. And for instance, imagine playing an Ancients game now where you send your skirmish horse forward and you change formation by putting them all in a circle. And I enjoy a Cantabrian circle as much as the next man, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's something that playing Ancients, we left
That's
behind.
history, isn't it? Yeah.
Some people still play Sixth, but so this whole change in formation, but that might be where the game is. So I might enjoy it because of that, rather than not enjoy it. But I've got to.
Yeah, no, I get that absolutely.
First before I can sort of like have.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. That's kind of what was putting me off until I actually had the opportunity to have a couple of games, and then you start realizing that that will be more a situational thing. So because you've got the objective points, you'll be using those more reflectively to say, I'm going to defend this area, and these are the sort of tactics and the formations I'm going to use for that. And that's what I mean. 2 games in, that's how I'm looking at it. But I get what you mean. Some of the other stuff.
So the first thing I've got to do is learn the rules. So I'm not sort of like, that's not a thing. And the game we had last night, even though sort of like we only had 3 turns, but stuff happened and it was a fun game because it's like there, and my sort of like French attacked the Austrians and drove them off the hill. My cav came around the flank, and it was a good game. But I need to know the rules before I can take a view. But I suppose another question that came to me, and it's only because it's the same author that wrote ADLG, and it's only because you guys are playing it, and something we've always talked about on these podcasts and when we're in the pub, looking at ADLG as a competition rule set. That's how we play ADLG. You know what I mean? It's like we might occasionally do an historical thing, but even when we sort of like 2 people pick an army and we rip it apart solely for what's the best way to do the competition. Do you think Bataille Empire could be played in the same way, or could it only be done as an historical rule set? It's just
I think the idea of the points value and the menus in there is to give it the facility to be a competition rule set.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Got the facility, but I'm saying, could that work? ADLG, that works as a game. Like you get together and play as a competitive game.
The French have already done a few
works.
of those. Yeah, the French have already tried out a few competitions, so it'd be interesting to see. If it wasn't for COVID, they were going to be having a whole season of it, and some of the top players in France and Spain were going to be hitting BE a lot this year. So unfortunately, it's going to be hopefully just delayed a year, and they'll all be back and healthy and happy. But they were just starting out some tournaments. So we were getting a bit of information back from them about the ways they were looking at it.
But I wonder if there's a theme specific or a period specific mindset, because I used to play a lot of Fog Renaissance in competitions. I'd still do, the odd competition even just until pre-lockdown, and I would probably do the odd competition going forwards. But whilst that was a 2 equal sides, encounter battle, whatever, just kind of the whole ethos of the group of players who were playing it was just different. People wanted to put a different army on the table and shove it around and do kind of propery sort of things with it, whereas you go into a more competitive ancient scene and it does in the competitions anyway, everybody's still fine and happy, and I think ADLG is great because slightly more dicey and people are older and nobody quite takes it as seriously as we did in the days of DBM and God forbid 7th and all sorts of things like that. But I just think there was a slightly different ethos, and I wonder if what a lot of people who play Napoleonic will want to get out of it is a more narrative experience, even in a competition setting, and getting a narrative
I think it probably appeals
experiences.
to the, if you like, historical gamer rather than the competition gamer.
Yeah, so that may just be something to do with the period. So I think the answer may be nobody may ever find out, because it may not have that kind of history of people coming into it who think like that from previous rule sets.
I think it'd be, from a competition perspective, I'm just thinking because I used to play Flames of War, and each table used to have a different theme. So I could see that happening with Bataille Empire, because different scenarios. So you have a meeting engagement, you've got a different sorts of engagements, and which would actually promote a very different scenario. So you could rock up with the same army, but then it's actually a very different scenario for each thing. So you could almost put that through.
Except you would know that if you've got low initiative, you're likely to end up being the defender.
Which is fun, because that's competition-wise, that's one of the things you might plan for.
Yeah,
that might be your choice. Yeah,
you do it in AGLG as well.
yeah,
yeah, true. Yeah, so I suppose maybe the fact there's scenarios involved and objectives just does change it in a way which just already takes you away from straight encounter battles,
and
which
also
already takes away the focus from just the army.
And also the doctrines of the army did change from time to time, and the tool kit you had available to do it with. So a French army in early revolutionary time would be, very poor quality. By 1815, you're up to conscripts, but somewhere in the middle, in 1805 to 1809, you've got a lot of crack, experienced troops who can pretty well fight in any formation under very good commanders. So even though you may not get as many of them, a French army in that era should be able to outmaneuver and sometimes outfight with better skirmish factors an equal number of opponents. So that gives it that edge there. Whereas the opponents are basically, numbers, we're not as mobile and nimble.
Yeah.
But, put us if you can get us to the right place, we'll fight okay when we get there.
Yeah.
Can I one more question for people that played more than me, because I've only played one game. Because when I was sort of thinking of an army list in my head, I thought I'll just get a range of different troops just to see how it all works. You know what I mean? I wasn't. So I was thinking I would have some couple of divisions of foot, and I'll get a 12-pounder battery as a sort of supporting ground battery, as well as the 8-pounders with the divisions, and I'll get a few cavalry. At 200 points, no, I'm not having the 12-pounder. No, it's like the infantry. I can't have French line infantry. Quite a few of it's got to be provisional. I'm only having 2 batteries of 8-pounders. The army seemed at 200 points. It seemed quite a full. So how long does it take to play a 200-point game? And would a 300-point game be short enough and become more normal? Because it's 300 points where I could have
that's what Simon and Howard were testing out, because they'd played several 200s and they wanted more toys on the table, so they went up to 300 to see the feel of it, and they said it was good. It was just very different because you've suddenly got a larger table, so then you've got more of the maneuver capability. So the extra 100 points is great because then you actually make use of things like hussars and that, which in the 200 points, you're not necessarily going to have the opportunity to do the flanking maneuvers when you've got, say, large units on the table, so the Austrians and such like. So it puts it as a quite subtly different. I think Dave and I were getting the hang of it with what we do each turn, because once you get into the flow of it, it flows quite quickly. It's just that stuttering thing to start off with seemed to take forever. But once we got the hang of it, then you could do the turns very quickly. So I think I get what you mean, Adam. I was like, I've just been playing around trying to get a decent 200-point one. The thing to remember to get a single unit of this, a single unit of that, you can use the reserves as well if you want a couple of extra units to just drop in. So I'm looking at that on the 200, but I totally agree with the 300. It makes it more of a full all-arms division, as opposed to the moment it just feels like a couple of battalions stitched together in a meeting engagement sort of thing.
Well, the other thing, of course, is at 200 points, you're looking at, if you like, a standard infantry corps without fancy bits which your historical commander might not have in his fingertips anyway. We all want to chuck in a unit of grenadiers and a battery of 12-pounders and some cuirassiers, but realistically, how many infantry corps commanders would have those things available? And the answer is not very many.
But realistically, I played toy soldiers and I got some beautiful AB cuirassiers.
Well, that's just it. I managed to work it out in 200 points. I've got a infantry unit. I've got my grenadiers, and I've even got cuirassiers in reserve. So I'm like going, I've got my toys to play on the table. So I'm happy.
Well, the Austrians are kind of a mixed bag anyway. You get a bit of everything.
That's why I like it.
List from French in Germany, 1809, and I've ended up with 6 different lists. So one's with cuirassiers, one's with hussars, one's with dragoons. Because your standard thing is 3 groups: 1 large infantry, 1 small infantry, 1 cavalry. And then I've worked out, so if you take the hussars and downgrade a couple of line infantries to small, you can then put the grenadier in. So you can end up with a lot of variety. So if you were sitting down, say, in a competition game at 200 points, you could be playing very different armies, I think.
But what it does sound like is that there's enough in BE for us to have a good, proper couple-hour discussion based on a bit of research from people. So maybe we should save this for another week where we have some strong coffee.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe there's another. Yeah, we're already digging quite deep into this just for skimming over it. Then
This means war.
So Adam, other than well, going back to where we started, Adam, you were saying that you played BE yesterday, but over the last few weeks, I think you picked up a few more games. And is it Entoyment that started letting gamers in a few weeks ago? Obviously, that was soon stopped when you're...
Started letting people in a few weeks ago. I've played a few games of ADLG. They've now gone to... I mean, it's a bit interesting because you've all been to Entoyment, haven't you? And upstairs is quite big, and they haven't got all the tables, so it's quite airy. So it's like they started off by saying if you're in the shop, you had to wear your mask. If you're upstairs just with your opponent, you didn't, which is fine. Now they're saying that even if you're upstairs, you have to wear your mask. But that's a bit awkward because wearing masks is fine, actually, and you sort of like get used to it. But it's they have a deal where you can have as much tea as you want for £2.50. So you've got to wear your mask unless you drink the tea, and then it's all a bit. So it's very,
bandana is very useful.
Yeah, it's like because it is.
Slurp from underneath. Yeah.
The only problem I've got with a mask is it messed up my glasses.
I mean, it's like thinking about the Escape and thinking about Entoyment. It's like they've both got their advantages. Okay, at the Escape you get beer. At Entoyment you get light bulbs. So it's kind of it swings around it. You can see what you're doing at Entoyment. So, but yeah, no, it is a nice venue to go and play.
Take the beer every time.
Yeah, but I think the mask thing is whichever way you look at it, you are sat within a metre and a half of someone for an hour and a half. That fits the mask criteria for indoor meetings for sure.
Well, from what I've heard, it's sort of like if you're with someone for 15, 20 minutes, wearing a mask might help. But if you're that close to someone for a couple of hours, you're probably going to give it. If you've got,
that's an argument for saying you shouldn't do that at all, though, isn't it? I guess.
Well, that's a fair argument as well.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. But then again, we'll all be on level 2 soon, so it'll all be gone back into wargaming free lockdown. Level 2 means no gaming. That's the problem when that comes around, and I guess there are people up north who are already in that world.
It's probably we'll probably go to level 2 within a few days. I heard on the news.
I thought who knows? Hit points and another spell.
Yeah, yeah. You get to roll D8 instead of D12, something like that for your hit points. All right. So, Tamsin, have you managed to get any games in, or are you using some of your?
I got one game in.
Stuff.
Several weeks ago, I had a game of ADLG against Clive.
Okay. On one of his brief forays out of hospital.
Yes.
Yeah.
one of his brief forays, and And you remember back when we were doing all the ADLG lists, how I pick up just that list is illegal.
Yep.
Hey.
Guess what happened?
Your list was illegal.
Yeah.
Your list was illegal. Oh no. So how did you manage to cheat?
I had too many elite cataphracts. I took Armenians. I had too many elite cataphracts, so I had to.
That's a lot of cataphracts.
Points.
Right. Okay,
that's a lot of cataphracts.
Yeah, I hadn't taken them all as elite cataphracts. I had more than I should. And suddenly realised, okay, right. So redistribute those points to upgrade a commander and add on. I think it was a lightfoot javelin. I can't remember.
Right. Okay. Just fiddle something around.
It was all going really well. I had a wall of cataphracts and supporting cavalry going forward to attack. And they should have steamrolled his right flank and centre, but then dice happened.
Oh, well, Clive had good dice.
Yes.
So he's not told us
Yeah,
about
who's
that.
rolling
So
six ones against me in combat?
oh,
So about within three melee phases, I had no cataphracts left.
It was probably the shock of that put him back in hospital.
yeah,
Possibly,
that probably was. Yeah.
Oh, in terms of, remember, even though the lists might say you couldn't have had that many elite cataphracts, there is a more basic and more important and bigger rule of there's no such thing as too many elite cataphracts. So you could have tried that one.
Yeah, that's the rule 13F of Archer Laguerre. Indeed. So Dave, we've had a couple of games, haven't we? We've done some online stuff and like a real world game where we did a historical battle of the Byzantines against the Goths or something, where your Goths had to deploy in a boar's head formation, which was a little bit challenging, but that was kind of fun. Just trying to think.
The
So
cup
that what?
open, I've played quite a bit. I've been
Yeah.
going to support it.
Yeah.
Because we're a bit worried about Ravi's going to survive. But so I've played with most of the armies I've painted over this summer.
Fantastic.
I seem to have found myself with more time on my hand than I planned, having been made redundant. But no, I've got all the samurai out, I've got the Scythians out, I've got the Egyptians out. I've been playing quite a bit. But, as I was saying earlier, whilst we're waiting for competition to get going again, and let's hope that's not too long, it's Napoleonics from here till Christmas, I think. Try and get that in my head.
I think competitions is going to be beyond Easter next year. There's going to be nothing before that. I think it's almost impossible. If you're lucky. Yeah, it's very, very difficult to see how competitions work in some of the venues and some of the other stuff.
My money is campaign in Milton Keynes, maybe, because it's so spread out. Maybe May. Maybe.
Can't bet on anything until
I hope we can get to the Worlds next year in Greece in June.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's not jinx that one.
Yeah, that could be a long way away.
That's completely dependent on the vaccine, and I don't see a vaccine. I think the whole vaccine thing is complete gobbledygook, and it's a lie. No conspiracy theory.
Okay, so because normally conspiracy theories around why there's no need for it, Dave. You've got your own conspiracy theory that it's all going to be a scam as well. Okay, well look, let's hope that we're able to prove ourselves wrong by whenever we think May, June, July, end of next year, God knows when. But it's going to be a while.
Simon, why don't you run it through random.org and see what month it comes up with as to when we can play competitions?
That could be it, yes. Keyboard Warrior, there we go.
Not sure the
Magic 8 balls.
Yes,
No,
that would be the one. And while we're talking about balls, I think that probably means it might be time for Andy's quiz. Yes, you thought we'd all lost that music and it had been buried to the French dustbin of industrial techno history. But no, the music's returned and Andy's quiz has returned. And I can see from the 7 smiling faces that people may be happy about at least one of those things, or possibly at most one of those things. So Andy, we don't have the joy of answers from a previous week, I don't think.
That would take too long because it was 16, if you remember.
Yeah, there's 16 and we're just not doing that at all. But bang us away, fire us into whatever obscure subject you've dredged out from whatever kitchen cupboard that you've got behind you on the Zoom call for this week's quiz.
I delved into the dustbin of history and I came up with a topic called impressive privates. The following 3 people...
He's straight back into form. Straight back into form.
Thank you. The following 3 people who became army generals started their military career as private soldiers. Who were they? Number 1. This person died at the age of 80, having been wounded 33 times during his military career. 3 of these wounds were received at the Battle of Wagram in 1809, where he led an unauthorized attack, which was instrumental in winning the battle. After the battle, Napoleon said he deserved to be shot for disobeying orders and then made him a marshal.
Okay. All right. Yep.
Number 2. This man was chief of the Imperial General Staff in the British Army in the First World War and once removed a general from his command on the Western Front with the words, "Oris, you're for home."
You're for home.
Yeah.
St. James. No, I didn't know he's commanded
And number
chief of general
3,
staff.
this Irish man had risen to the rank of sergeant in the British Army, emigrated to the USA, rose from the rank of private soldier again to become a widely respected major general in the Confederate Army, and was killed in the Battle of Franklin in 1864.
Okay, well, 3 privates there, and we will keep the answers to those private-based questions secret from you until we return next week.
Question. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond? Question. La légende le dit? Question. Elle dit aussi? Question. C'est une maladie? Question.
Oh, wow. Yes. I wonder if the closure of nightclubs will affect the royalties, which that French techno song actually has been earning. Maybe it will impoverish the poor French techno. No, it's just going nowhere. That one, isn't it? We'll stop that one.
I think we should devote our royalties to donate them to Ravi.
Yes, quite possibly. Yes. If we ever, if anybody ever clicks on any advertising that may or may not be associated with this podcast, we will pass them on to Ravi in some way, shape, or form. So, on that one, I think we've not done bad for the first one. We're nearly an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes, something like that, which is not a bad roundabout. We've covered some painting, we've covered some gaming. We're going to try and mix up the format this new season, and maybe bring back some of the features every now and then. But I guess our normal roundup then is what are you planning on doing this week? So Andy, what's on your painting and gaming list for this week?
Carrying on with the feudal English foot, I've more or less finished 1 unit, so I've only got 4 to go, and then I've got the Irish kerns, and then that will be more or less it. So I reckon there's about 3 or 4 more weeks of work in there at the speed at which I paint.
Okay. Any gaming planning this week? Or
yeah, and Dave, Ray and I we've got a permanent fixture on a Wednesday now where we're doing ADLG, and what we've done now is we're choosing historical battles and choosing the armies which could have fought those battles and making army lists out of that. So tomorrow we're doing Plataea, and I'm going to, each battle has got a strategist, and what happened is one of us chooses the battle, the other chooses the army they want to be, and so I'm the Persians, led by Mardonius, so I'll have a strategist, and he's going to be the hoplite Greeks, and then he'll choose a battle for next week, and we'll decide which armies we're doing.
Interesting.
We made a list of a lot of classical ones, and so
that would be maybe you can bring that list along next time, and we could all chew over which one those sound like the most interesting. Maybe pick some of those up ourselves. That'd be intriguing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
unless it's commercially confidential between the two of you in some sort of secret long-term publishing.
No. I have to let him win. I have to let him win a few times, or he gets a bit upset.
Right. Okay,
but I'll send you my Persian list, and you can then all laugh at it.
Interesting. Right. Well, Peter, what about you and your gaming and painting week? Now we're back up to speed.
Back up to speed. It's looking at Bavarians and looking at, do I need any more Austrians? I don't think I do, even though it is tempting.
How can you ever have too many Austrians? This is something I don't understand.
Well, it's as Adam was saying, within the points, but we'll come to that when we come back around on it. But I think basically I'm going to get some Bavarians. Either I'll cheat and get some stuff off Fleabay and get some painted up, or I'm just going to buy some. Of course I'm going to buy some.
I've got a pack of about a dozen if you want them. I can hoosh them over to you. They're no good to me.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get some Bavarians.
Bavarians are coming.
But as for games, I might try and play my son, and might see if some of you guys are up for a TT on for BE, and have a play at that and have a look. But might even book a day off next week and give Dave another go against for BE.
Thursday next week. Sounds good.
Could be a plan.
I'll have a look at the old calendar.
Okay. And Mr. Saunders, what about you? What's your next week of painting and gaming? Are you at the club every day? No.
Well, I'm saving money.
Yep.
Whilst we're sitting here, I've kind of painted up 4 bases of Scythian heavy cavalry, or finished them off, which is nice. going to get myself a Württemberg division for the BE. AB miniatures, 6 to a base, 3 line, 1 light, and a general, maybe some cavalry. That's the next thing to have an ally for the French army. That's the next acquisition, figures-wise.
That's basically Bavarians in green uniforms.
Well, no, aren't they Württemberg? Aren't they blue with tin hats?
I think they've got the silly hats. I think they've still got the Rapin helms. I might be wrong, but I thought they did.
It's kind of a Baden division, but I think
the Baden's different. Yeah.
Oh no, we're into a Napoleonic button discussion already. That just went so quickly.
You've also got to make sure the shoelaces are the right colour.
Exactly.
It's all about the lacing and the
That
colours.
went downhill so quickly.
Get the brick holes.
Changing the subjects, it's Ravi needs
Thank you.
I'm going to try and play a couple of games of ADLG Ancients
on
Monday. Get into the club. I'm going to see how Ravi's getting on because we're worried that Ravi's going to get closed down and might even disappear, which would be an absolute disaster for all of us.
Yeah, that would be a real problem for Central London, wouldn't it? If that went down.
Have a chat with Ravi tomorrow, on Thursday, and see how he's getting on.
Yeah.
See where we go with that. No, I'm going to play as much as I can while I've got the time on my hands. I'll probably get some TTS in if there's anybody wants to get into that again. Chuck, yeah.
Yep.
Maybe on Sunday. I'll be free on Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. I need to, at some point we talk about this. I need to put some figures on eBay and raise some funds to put back into buying new figures. I think
you're going to be buying AB
some recycling.
Make war pay for war. I think it's the technical term, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, Adam, what about you? Have you got more entoyment trips or finishing off Romans or starting the Dacians?
I've got a game of ADLG on Thursday and another game of BE lined up next week. So all good to look forward to. And I'm hoping in the next week to finish off painting the riders for my Roman Cav and Generals. So that's another 4 bases of Cav and all the general bases done for most of the army done. So all... I was going to say exciting, but if that is exciting, I do have quite a sad life. So all good.
Well, look on the bright side. At some point, I'll make a trip down to Bournemouth, and we can do like 2 solid days of whatever it is that's dull. If you can, we can both persuade our better halves that that's an allowable idea. So that's possibly creeping up on the horizon. That might even see Malifaux get back on table, which would be.
Because one thing I was going to suggest, if we do have the time, you said that you had, what's that Napoleonic naval game, Black Seas?
Yes,
bought.
yeah.
Now, I bought Sails of Glory a couple of years ago because it was second hand cheap and because Queen's Glory was brilliant. And I also got Blood and Plunder or something, another naval game.
The other one, yeah.
Yeah, the other one.
Yeah, I've got that one.
We could play all 3 of them and do some sort of like considered this one's the best type thing.
That's true. I think the only slight flaw in that is that there's probably several months of me painting and building the Black Fleece stuff because it doesn't come pre-built.
Do you have to build them? Because it's like
you actually have to build them. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the first part of the view of Swords of Glory and Blood and Plunder. You don't have to mess around.
That's a win. Yeah, as I'm starting to realise, but maybe we'll take it down to Pirate Town sometime and do a long weekend in there. That's a possibility.
Makes it always up for a journey to Pirate Town.
Everybody's up for a journey to Pirate Town. Right? No, I think. Tamsin, have you got any? Is Clive in hospital? Out of hospital this week? I always lose track.
No, he's out at the moment. He's waiting for them to call him back in to do a stent.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I haven't got any games booked. Although I should really try to get a couple in before we get locked down again and before I move.
Oh right, okay. Are you shifting?
Yeah, I'm going to be moving up to Derbyshire in late November, early December.
Okay, excellent. Wow.
Why Derbyshire? Just I'm curious.
Well, partly because it's a nice area.
Yeah, lovely.
Also because I can buy a 3-bed house there for 100,000.
Yeah, that does make quite a difference, doesn't it? Yeah. That's a lot more storage space for all that terrain as well. So that's fantastic stuff.
And the armies and so on. So
yeah, no, wonderful stuff.
On the painting front, I should finish the Romans tomorrow. Finish painting them tomorrow, get them varnished, and start the basing on Thursday.
Okay. And that's those the 15mm ones, are they, to match the other ones for your infamy midget infamy project?
Yeah, and then after
Would
that,
you have to hire 2 removal lorries or one for your armies?
Either be some terrain, or I've got some cobblestone figures to add to the Judge Dredd collection.
Okay, fantastic. So plenty of variety there. And then Simon, do you have anything booked in gaming wise for the next week?
Yeah, I'm going to the club on Thursday to give Jeff a game of ADLG Renaissance.
Oh, see you there.
It'll be interesting to see him come kicking and screaming into ADLG. So
that'll be good.
It's not his favourite of rule sets, but
yeah.
Has he played the Renaissance one yet? I don't think he has.
Not yet. So I've we'll give him the first game. We'll see how much of a dummy spit he gives me. So
how is Jeff?
He's just exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Still got a job carrying body parts around the country?
No,
he retired a while ago.
Oh, blimey. Is that old?
I think he's doing some sort of data thing.
Some consultancy type thing, I think.
It was one of those,
body part consultancy
things of time where there was an offer, blah, 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 he wanted, or he just, I don't know. It's Jeff,
No, that's neat. Good. Well, I think I've got a TTS game lined up against a guy in the States on Friday afternoon. I think I'm trying to arrange to go over to see Richard Case, because I think he's not got out and done much gaming sometime next week. But I think definitely getting online on Tabletop Simulator and doing some Battle Empire, or trying to get down to the club at the same time with you guys to have a look at how it all plays out as well, is it? Because the couple of games it's just intriguing enough to do it. And then I've also, painting wise, I've got to crack on to getting a bit more stuck into these. I can sort of see them getting close to finished Arabs, and maybe if by next time I can have put a real big dent and got the horses pretty much based up, that would be a big achievement by sometime this time next week. Now that I'm like Dave, also got a lot more free time on my hands, which is fantastic from the gaming point of view. So I think we're almost feels like we're grinding back up into full speed, aren't we? In terms of world of painting, world of gaming, and I suspect whatever level 3, level 2, level 1, level 4, if they invent that one, on the peri sauce scale, which I think that was the one from the first time, wasn't it? The Nando's scale.
Yeah.
All the different colours did exactly match the Nando's.
5 chili ones, yeah.
5 chili sauces. So whenever that comes back in, we'll be back in on full effect. But until then, thank you very much for listening. Hope some of you remember, if this is your first time, oh my God, you've missed so much, but you're probably grateful to have done that. There is a whole series of 20 of these from the earlier lockdown period, but we will be back with a more...
Including the
special. Don't forget the glue special.
22, including the glue and the paintbrush specials. 2 specials. Yeah.
So what special should we do next?
Yes, that's maybe a subject for an entire week of what special should we do next. Flock.
Oh, no.
The flock special.
Dice.
No,
dice varnish. Maybe that's a whole different subject. But look, thank you for taking part. Thank you for listening, and we shall see you all in a week's time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Remembered it, didn't we? Bit of thing. So this will be what have you played, and then And then I guess we'll probably round up by saying, shall we talk about Battle Empire a bit more next week? Is that...
Sounds good.
I have a quiz.
We have a quiz. Sorry, the quiz has got to come in.
Can we just do the theme tune?
Yeah.